Hello, Paul Wilkinson here. Welcome to another edition of Musical Heroes. One of my favourite musicians, of so many, but one of my very favourites and very favourite piano players is Bill Evans. I've loved Bill Evans since I first heard his piano playing on the Miles Davis records, particularly Kind of Blue. The dichotomy of tone and control that he brought to playing the piano is absolutely sublime. I mean, a few years ago actually they released some Bill Evans practice tapes, which are really interesting to hear, because you can hear him practicing some of the Bach preludes and fugues, and he plays them so beautifully. So you can see he had a crossroads in his life with Bill Evans, where he could have gone that way of being a classical pianist, but ultimately he took that route to be a great jazz pianist. And he certainly was that. There are so many Evans albums I've laid out in front of my desk here, and I also have on CD and on record. But and there's a wealth of material on YouTube nowadays. Some really great concerts to watch Evans perform. But he had such a lovely control. But he was a pure improviser. You know, his phrases. He practiced a lot of things. You know, he clearly worked hard as a pianist, but when he went on the bandstand, he kind of forgot about that, and all this beautiful music would come out. So if you're a musician, you will hear that he will start a phrase on the end of beat 1, for example, and then he'll give you that phrase again in the next bar, but on a different place in the bar. Obviously, his sense of harmony. I could talk for weeks about Bill Evans, but this is just a little introduction of him. His compositions, the way that they're structured, they're so beautiful harmonically, with many classical inclinations. I think he was a fan of some of the great British composers as well, like Delius, and you can hear all that in his playing. So some, obviously I say obviously, it depends, you might be new to some of this, but this is the sort of a definitive first album of his that I suppose I really got into, and it's a must-have if you're a piano player. Sunday at the Village Vanguard. There's also another great one called Everybody Digs Bill Evans. That's an interesting, because on that album is a composition called Peace Peace, and that clearly formed the introduction to Miles Davis's Kind of Blue, the track on that called Flamenco Sketches. So investigating some of that early period is absolutely wonderful. There's some great albums with where are they? Tony Bennett. I've got them somewhere here knocking about. Oh yeah, there's 2 albums with Tony Bennett, the jazz singer. That's a wonderful one. And then they did another one for Tony's record label. I think they had to do one each. This was a nice recent release, which is Some Other Time. It has Eddie Gomez on bass. He's maybe not my favourite of tones that he produces on the bass, but it is a great trio record. There's another album of his called You Must Believe in Spring, which was a real favourite of mine when I was younger. I really loved that record. Another one which I have on vinyl is called I Will Say Goodbye, and this is beautiful. It's got Dolphin Dance on it by Herbie Hancock, which is also fantastic. There's that other album I was on about, You Must Believe in Spring. That's a great magic record. There's a lovely record he did with the great sax player Stan Getz that they did together. That's really nice. There's a couple of albums that he did with Jim Hall. Here's one of them. This is called Undercurrent. So there's a wealth of music out there, and I love some of the box sets as well. So there's a box set of the Vanguard, so all those nights. Some of those are incomplete because the tape machines failed. But then towards the end of Bill Evans' life, he really had a nucleus of about 12 tunes, 20 tunes, maybe between 12 and 20 tunes that he would always play. So he'd often play Nardis, by the tune by Miles Davis. Now on this box set called Turn Out the Stars, which is quite a hefty thing, I remember saving my pennies for that, there is some truly there's an unbelievable couple of versions of Nardis on there, which are absolutely, the introduction, I think it's about 17 minutes, one of those. It's unbelievable the way that he does this intro and then leads into the trio. And although, you know, some people might say, oh well, Evans was, because he was if you don't know, he was people say it was the longest suicide in the history of jazz, because Evans was a drug addict, you know, and essentially that's what killed him, really, I suppose. So some people say that maybe that album's a bit loose wise because of the state he was in, but there is some unbelievable performances on the Turn Out the Stars box set. There's some lukewarm ones as well because you're hearing everything, you know. I've been recording my concerts and I've got I don't know, maybe 8 hours of piano music, and some I love and some I hate. You know, by virtue of the holistic quality of jazz, it's not always going to be good, you know. And sometimes it's like going for a walk. You know, you walk up a mountain, you see a lovely the sun setting and the sunshine. Then next day you do it and you get stuck in some mud, and you know it takes you hours. But it's the same journey. But you know sometimes the outcome's not as good as it was the night before. So I suppose that's the nature of jazz. But I'm just dipping the toe in the water. Actually, there's so many Bill Evans albums laid out here in front of me. Too many to go through. In fact, you can just probably see some of them there, just all laid out. There you go. The many albums of Evans. Anyway, please do explore his music. He's a wonderful pianist and been a great influence on me, particularly on his technique and his touch and his control of voicing chords and his beautiful compositions. So please investigate the music of Bill Evans. He's another one of my musical heroes.